All right. So, we're going to talk about Temporalis. So, if you haven't heard, there's been an exploit in Path of Exile where people were duping one of the most exclusive items. It's the item you get as a reward for clearing the sanctum um, for not getting hit. You can't get hit the entire sanctum. And basically, people were printing these items and flooding the market, and it dropped the price like crazy. Now it's been patched, but the market has not yet recovered, but it will. So while you can, I would suggest picking up one of these chest pieces. It is, let's see, it is this one right here, Temporalis. So let me show some footage here. So this is, we're clearing a breach. We got Temporalis, which reduces our cooldowns. And you can see we're blinking a lot. Lots of blinking. And that's basically all we use it for. So it has some recoup and some elemental resistances, but mostly what we care about is the skills have minus X seconds to cooldown. And what that mod allows us to do is, number one, we can blink a whole ton. And number two, it removes the cooldown on Plague Burst for our poisons. So you'll see in this clip here, we're clearing this breach, and the poisons are just popping all over the place. And it's destroying my frame rate. And just really crazy clear. So we do have some disadvantages of equipping it. So I'll kind of cover a little bit of the gear changes and the skill changes and the skill tree changes. Some minor tweaks here and there, but it's mostly the same as the poison version that I talked about in the min-maxing guide. With a few key changes. So let's take a look. So, first items first, Temporalis has a range of -4 to -2 on the cooldown range. You want it to be at least enough to cover your blink. So blink cooldown without this is 2.43 seconds. So you want at least 2.43 seconds on here, and you may want to get a little bit more. I'm not sure how much you need exactly to be able to run 50% cooldown maps, but this one here is enough to run 50% less cooldown recovery maps. I can do that just fine. So I don't know if you need more than 2.4 to be able to do that, but get enough to cover your blink, and then your Plague Burst should be fine. So it's a 0.1 cooldown, and that'll go down to 0. And that removes our spirit, unfortunately, so we have to drop out a few things. So we lose 40 spirit here, and I've swapped to a helmet that has a bunch of energy shield to make up for what we're losing on the chest piece. That helps us scale our mana a little bit more and get a little bit of damage. So the R's we drop out are cast on crit. So you will not be able to really do pinnacle bosses with this build. We lose a lot of single target damage, and especially since we're swapping our Prism of Belief over to Bone Cage to improve our clear, we're just not going to have a whole lot of single target damage. It can still clear like rares and map bosses decently well. Not amazingly well, but it's decent enough. But really this swap, this build variant, is really geared towards just blasting breaches. So if you're kind of looking for an all-arounder, type of build, follow the min-maxing guide. Otherwise you can try this out and see if you enjoy it. It's fun blinking everywhere. You can kind of get from one end of the breach to the other end of the breach. So anyway, let's cover the rest of the gear changes. So I talked a little bit about this. We no longer have a spirit helm. We have just energy shield and intelligence and mana. And that's just to scale our mana to help with our Eldritch Battery and our Arcane Intensity stacking, as well as our Mind Over Matter defenses. We are using the Poison Gloves. Talked about earlier, these have +1 to poisons, as well as some poison chance on hit. And with a few changes on the tree, we're actually getting to 100% chance to poison without the need for Envenom. And so we swap Envenom for Corrosion, or you could use like Faster Casting, whatever that one's called, Arcane Tempo, I think. Or like Arcane Surge might even be decent. Or you could keep in Astral Projection. But our gem links right now are Corrosion, Bursting Plague, which is our explosions, Inspiration to reduce the cost, Comorbidity for an extra poison, and Deadly Poison. Since we are going all in into poisons, this one is actually pretty crazy. So, on the tree, here's one of the new clusters we've taken. So we added a poison here with a bunch of poison chance. We keep this stuff, and we keep low tolerance, or this may be a new add actually. So we add low tolerance in. Let's see what else. This part may be new. So we save a few points here by skipping all the energy shield nodes, and we get some ints. And just we threw some extra points over here into the crit damage bonus, just because we didn't have a good place to go otherwise. So jewels are the same. We still want magnitude of damaging ailments. We still want like chance to inflict ailments on a couple of these is probably a good idea. Besides that, we take crit damage, crit spell damage, and if you can get damage, damage taken from mana before life, if you can get like a 3 or 4% roll on the jewels, that's really good too. But those are quite expensive, since I think a lot of Archmage users are hoarding those. So let's see, I think that's all the changes on the tree. We have Anointed Mental Perseverance for a little bit more tankiness. And let's talk about, so we covered Bone Cage. Eye of Winter. So our curse setup is a little different, and our Eye of Winter setup is a little different. So Eye of Winter, we add in Withering Touch, which gives us full wither with a single button press on bosses. It's very nice. Or really tanky rares. But mostly this is just for bosses. We don't have to use it while we're mapping. Most of the time the poisons will just delete everything. And then we have Despair for another damage taken multiplier for our poisons on bosses. And then our bossing is a little bit different. Instead of bone storming, we're actually kind of stacking Bone Cage poisons on the bosses. And we can use Bone Storm to get some damage from range if necessary. Detonate Dead is still here. I don't really use it. Don't need to. Mana Tempest. You can use this on your Bone Storm to get a little bit of damage, but it can be a little bit dangerous sometimes. And other than that, we had a little bit of extra spirit from dropping out, like Cast on Crit, and we can't use Grim Feast or whatever it is to restore energy shield. So we just threw in some support gems that take up our spirit. So cannibalism, clarity, and vitality. So that should be it. I'm trying to find a way to scale the single target a little bit more. Just to, it would be very nice if this variant of the build could do pinnacle bosses, so I don't have to like swap gear into the cast on crit setup when I want to do bossing. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly what do I need there, and I'm not sure there's going to be a great option. I did mess around with Archmage. If you turn on Archmage, your bone cage damage goes crazy, and you can put in gloves that scale the Archmage damage, that adds the Archmage damage to your poisons. And I did try that out for a little while, and it seemed to have some promise. So I'll play around with that a little more and try and get that into a spot where it feels good to play. But for now, this is where we're at. I've really been enjoying clearing breaches with this. It's very POE1, zoom zoom, click a button, screen go pop. So it's been enjoyable. I highly recommend picking up one of these chess pieces before they go back up in price. They're probably gonna, slowly go back to where they were before, before the exploit was exploited, which was around like 200 divines, and now I think they're like 20. I got this one for 22, and then I divined it into this roll for like 3 or 4 divines. So it was like 24, 25 divines total, which for this particular chess piece is a steal. I don't think we're going to see anything like this in future leagues, where this chess piece is this accessible. So get it while you can, get it while it's hot. Abuse early and often, as they say. But yeah, I wouldn't say that this version of the build is going to be something I can recommend for future leagues. It's definitely not future proof, and it's definitely not like budget or league start friendly or anything like that. So use at your own risk is what I'll say. All right, I think that's all I got for you guys. Yeah, get to blasting. And the prolif hits just right.